The biography on your website states that you grew up on a diet of 70s radio. Who were the artists that you heard that inspired you to want to do it yourself?
Well, when I was a kid, I grew up. I used to put the radio right by my head, a little clock radio, and it would play all that great 70s music, you know, like Al Green and Marvin Gaye, and then Frampton Comes Alive, I remember, came out, and I was a kid about 8 or 9 years old, and my brother had the double LP up in the attic, and I would sneak up there and put the headphones on and listen to Peter Frampton Comes Alive, and that just lit my fire right there. And then I found my sister had Stevie Wonder records, and I would listen to those, and I that's where I really learned to sing, was listening to Stevie Wonder. And then I found an old copy of Beatles' Abbey Road down in the basement in a scratched-up box of old records, and played that. And then I just fell in love with the Beatles and all their songs, and that's what's in my sauce for the most part.
When you first went to Boston and started to make inroads in the live music scene there, how competitive did you find it?
Let's see. Well, I first went with the intention of being like a singer in a band, either a rock band or a funk band. And that was hard, actually, getting a gig like as a singer in a band for me. And I think I was gifted with the gift of no other choice. I was fired from my job. I didn't land any gigs in any bands. So I had to go out and sing in the street, in the subway, and that was quite competitive, actually. You had to get up very early in the morning to get the good spots in the subway.
Did you find it a welcoming musical community, though?
I found the busking community to be very welcoming and supportive. We'd look out for one another. We'd in Harvard Square on a hot Friday night in the summer, we'd watch each other's spots while you went off to get a coffee or whatever and take a break. We would swap songs and stories and just hang out. It was a great time back in the very early 90s in the Boston busking scene.
Now, you've gone through some major label experience, but have now reverted back to releasing your own stuff on your own label. Now, a lot of people in your situation would have a bit of tales to tell about their major label experience, but I believe you look back on it rather fondly.
Yeah, I had a great time with Atlantic. We put out a couple good records, and I met a lot of great people. I don't have any horror stories with the major label, thank God. I just found out by doing it that I really could do this by myself. I can do this. I have the support of the fans, and I have the support of college radio and listener-supported public radio. And I just thought that, if I'm going to get this continued level of participation on the big label side, then I might as well do it myself, because although I don't have any horror stories, I didn't enjoy some of the things that some artists can enjoy on a big label.
Yeah.
It was just hard to get all the attention that I needed. So doing the indie thing, I think it's a great time right now to be indie. I think it's the big labels are all just having trouble now. They're all dropping people and laying people off left and right. So I think it's a great time to be indie.
Certainly, the internet explosion would certainly help too.
Yeah, I've just enjoyed a lot of fruit from the internet. It's been a wonderful tool to help grow what it is that I'm doing.
Yeah. Did Atlantic have much to say in directing the style of your music? Did they try and steer your music in any particular direction, or did they pretty much leave you to your own devices there?
They really did leave me to my own devices. They were very hands-off. I remember when I signed with them, I told them that's the only way I would do it. They were very cool that way. They didn't need to get their fingerprints all over my records, and they let me produce the second one. And another benefit to being on that label was they got me to Australia 2 times.
That's right, yeah.
Two separate occasions. I made trips down there, and I had really been meaning to come back down and do a follow-up tour down there.
What pitfalls have you found in running your own label? There must be a downside to it.
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time?
Is there a downside at all to running your own label? What pitfalls have you come up against?
Well, I guess the downsides would be the money that is needed has to come up from you, the artist. And let's see. I guess, being a small label, you don't have the big guns of a very large corporation like Warner. But I don't see many downsides to it.
In hindsight now, do you wish you'd done...
I couldn't get arrested on commercial radio even with a big label. So I can't imagine... I think the only downside for me would be that the funds have to come from you, the artist.
For sure.
That's a beautiful thing because it all comes back to you.
Absolutely, and you can probably make a lot more money by selling a lot less records.
True. You got a much bigger piece of a much smaller pie.
Exactly. Do you wish in hindsight now you'd done it earlier, or do you think you had to go through that major label experience to learn that?
I think I did have to go through that major label experience to do it. And I think it was a good learning experience that will also prove to be a nice stepping stone because there was benefits to it. I did get ins at certain places that I wouldn't have got into without them, like Australia and other markets in America that I might not have seeped into without their help. So it was all good.
Now you started producing your own work during your time at Atlantic. Is that a more comfortable situation for you than working with an outside producer?
It was more comfortable, than any other record. I haven't worked with all that many producers, only a couple. So I don't have a whole lot to compare it to, but I enjoyed the freedom, and I enjoyed being the boss. And I enjoyed having great players at my disposal. I mean, it was just a gas making the Wonder Bar record because here I am telling like heroes of mine, like what I was hoping, with the kind of sound I'm after. And Tony Levin and David Sanchez in the studio was like made the producer job quite easy and also dreamy because I listened to these guys growing up as a kid. And now I'm asking them, well, could you play that A instead of the E there? And offering them direction, which was just amazing.
What about producing others? Is that something that interests you at all?
I'd love to one day produce a band or an artist. I would enjoy that quite a bit. I think I've been doing music long enough so that I would have a good... a well to draw from of musical experience. So I would enjoy that someday.
Now, you maintain a pretty busy touring schedule. Does the songwriting process happen for you while you're on the road, or do you store ideas away for later?
I think a little of both. I store them up while I'm on the road, and for me, I basically have to hunker down in a cabin or something, an old hotel, without any telephones or TVs. Or maybe in my kitchen late at night, just get the little tape recorder rolling and catch the ideas as they fly. For me, that's the hard part. That's the work part, is the songwriting. That's, for me, it's like a 7th grade kid doing homework. I just find that to be the real laborious part of my job.
Do you reach a point where you know that the song is finished? How heavy is the editing process for you?
I'm sorry, one more time?
Do you always reach a point in that songwriting process that you know that the song is finished? Or is how, in general terms, how heavy is the editing process?
Oh man, my editor's on full time, and I really need to turn him off. That's one of my problems. Is there's an editor in my brain that I think he's 30% friend and 70% foe. I think it's important for me to be writing very early in the morning or very late at night, because that's when the editor might knock off and be off duty. It's a little too tired. So things tend to fly out of me unedited when I'm a little groggy, and maybe before my morning coffee.
How important is road testing new songs for you to gain an audience response for a song before you go in and record it?
I like to do that. I like to have, I might do some shows in a very small venue to test songs out. I remember I did that behind the last record. I think it's important, but not key. I've done it and I've not done it. It works out either way for me.
Still performing primarily solo?
Am I still performing solo?
Is it primarily solo work that you're doing over there at the moment? Touring-wise?
At the moment, I spent the last year touring completely solo.
Yep.
And I've sort of been rediscovering my roots of why it is that I was a solo guy in the first place. Because when I'm up there alone in front of an audience with my guitar and my songs, I tend to do things with the guitar, harmonies, and I'll use the guitar not only as a guitar, but maybe as a drum or a bass or who knows what. And my voice is forced to become something other than what it was in the last song. And it just seems to take on a power that's greater than the just me and my guitar. It becomes a whole thing with me and the audience.
What about when performing new, as yet recorded material, unrecorded material in a live situation, in a solo situation? Are you hearing possible studio arrangements in your head while you're playing?
Oh, definitely, yes.
Yeah.
If I'm playing a song that's not recorded, I'm singing it there, and I can hear other parts going, and I'll even sing. Maybe I'll hum the other parts, or I'll play the bass line for a couple phrases, and maybe play a melody line on a guitar that I think would fit, and sort of work it out there in front of the crowd.
Is songwriting something that gets easier for you with time?
It hasn't gotten easier for me with time. I think if anything, it might have even gotten more difficult, just because I think the editor has grown even stronger over the years. So I'm trying to give him some quaaludes. Maybe he can take a nap, so I'll get some good songs out.
Do you put a lot of pressure on yourself in your writing situation? Are you a harsh judge of your own work?
Yeah, very much so.
For a travelling solo performer like yourself, have you found what have you found is the best form of promotion? How important is word of mouth promotion for you?
Oh, it's extremely. And now the word of mouth has extended to the internet, so word of mouth just became a very viable means of promotion, because now if one person knows about something, they go online, they can tell hundreds immediately. I really enjoyed the grassroots support from the fan base here in the States and in Canada and Australia as well. It's really taken over that niche that radio used to be ruler of. There's bands all over now who enjoy great success and played a huge sold-out shows, and they don't have a hit on radio, and they don't have their picture on Rolling Stone. They have that word of mouth from their fans. It just grows.
And speaking of your fan base, an interesting thing I noticed on your website is the rep program that you have, where interested people can get involved in spreading the word for you.
Right.
How did that one come?
What's that?
How did that idea come about for you?
Where did that idea come from? I'm not sure. I think I had seen maybe some other bands doing it, and I felt the need, certainly the need. I think the necessity is the mother of invention, and I had a need to have street marketing done. I know it's something they had when I was on a larger label, where they had local people, hanging posters and handing out music and whatnot, promoting shows and spreading the music. So I thought we could do that. We got fans who would love to spread it and help us promote shows and record releases and whatnot. People signed up, and it's great. They get something out of it. They get tickets to a show, or they get free swag, records and shirts and whatnot, and we get the added benefit of people spreading it on the street. And it's really proven to be an effective marketing tool.
So the response has been quite strong so far?
Yeah, it's very strong.
I believe you're an artist that openly welcomes taping of your shows by fans. How has that benefited you?
Well, let's see. I think that allowing people to tape benefits us in that a guy tapes a show, and what he does, he brings it home and he makes copies of it, and he sends it to all his friends, and he trades it with other people online and whatnot. And the end result is people who haven't heard me hear me. And it again is another great tool in spreading the music. And those people in turn who heard it on a bootleg or something come to a show and buy a ticket or buy a record, spread it to another person, and it works out to be a great situation for everybody, I think.
So everybody wins, so you're not anti-bootlegging at all?
No, I'm not. I think it's proven to be another great tool. I'm in the early days of radio, record companies thought radio was the enemy because, well, this isn't going to work. Everyone's going to be able to hear music for free by just turning on a radio. They're not going to buy records. And of course, as we know, radio turned into the main thing that sells records because people hear it on there and they want to go out and buy it. So I feel the same principle could be applied to letting tapers tape shows, because they're going to do it anyway. And if it gets music into people's ears, then it's a good thing.
That's right. There's a bigger picture there that I think some artists miss, don't they? That it can benefit.
Sorry?
There is a bigger picture to that some artists probably don't quite get, that it can benefit them as well. As you're saying, yeah.
Right. For an artist like me, that's all good. I guess if I was relying completely on, retail sales for my living, then it might
be different. Yeah.
Yeah.
You put out a double live CD yourself on your own label. Was that something you've been wanting to do for quite a long time?
Yeah, I wanted to put out a live record for a while. I knew it was time because I had put out, I guess, about 4 records, and I think what I do best is a live show, and that's what people seem to enjoy the most. So it seemed time to put something out in the marketplace that was a good representation of what happens from the time I get on the stage and the time I step off the stage.
You're even selling a few live bootlegs of your own too, recorded straight from the board.
Right.
Yeah.
We say again?
Is that something you're going to continue to do?
Yeah, we do it at selected shows where we'll have our sound guy record the show, and he does it really great too. He puts the mics just in the right places, and it picks up the crowd, it picks up the music. It just really captures the whole vibe, and it sounds great. I've heard them, and they just sound like a record.
Yeah.
And what we do then is we have this burner that burns the records after the show, and people hang out for 15 or 20 minutes, and they walk home with the show they just saw. And it again really proves useful in spreading the music. And then, of course, they bring it home and burn it for their friends or their cousins or who knows who, and it just continues to spread that way.
Another advantage of being independent, I guess, because these things can be produced quite cheaply, and
right.
if you get them out there, there's it is spreading the word, as you say.
Right, and I'm sure if I was signed to some major corporation, I'd probably be breaking some rule.
Yeah, exactly.
By recording shows and distributing them.
Now, as you mentioned earlier, it was the major label backing that brought you down here to tour. Being independent now, has it limited the amount of international touring you can do?
No, it hasn't. Because I never did enjoy the big of international touring like provided by the label with all the support, except for the trip to Australia, or the 2 trips to Australia, which were great. So Australia was about the only international push that they did. So basically, the only downside is I got to pay for the plane ticket down there.
Mm-hmm. And just as we wind up, what's on your books? What's coming up for the rest of the year?
On my books, well, summertime for me is now. You're going into the fall, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Going into the summer.
Yep.
I will be doing festivals across North America, a selected few. I like to take it easy in the summer. I've got to have time to write for my next record, and so this summer is some selected festivals in North America and Canada, and writing and fun in the sun.
Fantastic. What time frame do you have in mind for the next studio record?
We were thinking in the spring, I think.
That's your spring
of next year.
Okay.
Yeah, spring of next year.
Fantastic. We'll look forward to that. Martin, thanks for taking the time to catch up with us this morning. This morning your time, and late night here in Melbourne. But,
right. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it.
But great memories of your trips down here in the past, and we hope it's not too long before we get to catch you down here again.
Hey, is the Continental still serving up some of the best cheesecake I've ever had?
I'm sad to report to you that the Continental is no longer.
You're kidding, man. That was like my favorite restaurant in Australia.
It was a wonderful room.
The sauce was like my mother's, and the meatballs, and it was just so Italian. It was so real.
Unfortunately, the owners jacked up the lease, and people that were running the place decided to bail out.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
It's a real shame. We're missing it terribly. There's no other venue like it here in Melbourne, and
right.
Nothing's come up to replace it yet. It's been gone for about months now.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that. Well, I'll have to find somewhere else then.
There's a few people have tried to emulate it. There's been a few other venues come and go since then, but nothing's taken its place yet. But we're keeping our fingers crossed.
All righty. Well, good luck.
Thanks a lot, Martin.
Okay. Take care.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.